Welcome to EVTN News, everyone. Let me get this camera straightened out. I think there we go. Okay. Um, so I don't have a ton of stories, but some of these are kind of interesting. And as we go along, as we move along in the weeks, I don't put a lot of stock in a lot of the stuff that Pope Francis says. I hate to say it that way, I guess, but I don't I don't talk a lot about the things that Pope Francis says because it's redundant, it's not inspiring, and well, anyway. Let's start out with another pope. There's more than one pope, right? Monsignor Pope, Monsignor Charles Pope. Um, he had a surprising reaction to the Latin Mass in the Capitol. So as you know, I believe it's the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. He's a pretty fiery guy, I guess. I mean, he says a lot of old school. He has a lot of old school things to say. He's not Catholic, but he was sort of one of the organizers, even though he's not Catholic, because I don't know if he's if these politicians are kind of trying to generate support from Catholics, although unfortunately it seems like a lot of Catholics are kind of apathetic in regards to the faith, like the mainstreams I'm talking about. So defending traditional Catholics isn't going to score you a lot of points with the mainstreams, but with people like myself, I really respect it. And so Mike Johnson and Jim Jordan, he's one who's um, very critical of the FBI targeting Catholics and spying on them, especially SSPX Catholics. So, well, I don't want to say SSPX, those who attend the SSPX, because the SSPX, the only members are priests. Everyone else attends the chapel. So the lay people attend chapels. They can't be a member, so, per se, of the SSPX. I think they have religious brothers and nuns as well, but no, not lay people. Anyway, Monsignor Charles Pope, here's what he said. He said, I understand the anxiety and frustration that a lot of traditional Catholics have faced about Pope Francis's restrictions on Traditionis Custodes, he said, emphasizing Cardinal Gregory has simply sought to implement the Pope's directive. He said, even when there's frustration with what authorities do, if they have some protocols and things, I still think it's important to try to follow them because, well, Christ became obedient even unto death. Um, that's that's very disappointing from Monsignor Pope. Extremely disappointing. Because just a few years ago, he posted an article that was critical of the bishops who are banning the Latin Mass, and now his cardinal banned it, and he's saying, "Oh well, you have to be obedient, blind obedience." And so when his cardinal authorizes LMNOP blessings, is he going to be obedient and do the blessings? Where do you draw the line when they ban your mass, when they force you to do when they force you to accept LMNOP blessings? Because they're not going to force priests to do it, you know that. But they're gonna do them. Some of the bishops themselves will do these LMNOP blessings, and then what? Anyway, the Pillar's co-editor Ed Condon, a lawyer by training, in a January 26 email to Pillar readers, described the Capitol Mass as transgressive and canonically illicit, explaining he did not actively participate in the liturgy or receive Holy Communion, but covered it strictly as a journalist. Wow. What a real winner. I bet you're so proud of yourself for attending an illegal Latin Mass, but only attending as a journalist. I guess that means you guys can attend the SSPX Masses as a journalist, right? Because he writes for a blog. So write a blog post about it. Go to an SSPX Mass. You can fulfill your Sunday obligation, by the way. That's what Archbishop Naumann's archdiocese says. Archdiocese of Kansas City. They say you can fulfill your obligation by attending an SSPX mass, and so you can get a good blog post out of it and attend the SSPX mass at the same time, or get a good blog post out of it, fulfill your obligation while attending it strictly as a journalist. Anyway, ridiculous. Monsignor Pope said, obedience is at the heart of what we need in the church to legitimate authority who ask legitimate things of God's people. Is it a legitimate thing to ban the Mass of the Roman Rite? No. The answer is no, it's not legitimate. And so you can obey legitimate commands, legitimate authority who asks legitimate things. It's not legitimate to ban the Latin Mass, and so therefore you don't need to obey it. Priests, unfortunately, pretty much all diocesan priests have gone that way and obeyed it, and that's unfortunately bishops are getting what they ask for, and they're gonna have to close a lot of churches because they're losing people. And some bishops, like the one in in Kentucky, near Walton, Kentucky, but it is Covington area, I think. I think that's where who banned the priests, the one religious order of priests from saying the Latin Mass. He banned them, but he didn't cancel the Mass. He canceled the Mass at that church, but he had it somewhere else so that people wouldn't go to the SSPX. But I think you can see the point that's being made by these bishops, some of them. The ones who ban the Latin Mass, ban us from the sacraments. Are they really on our side? No. Gotta find a way to help us. Of course, what are they going to do when it comes to LMNOP blessings? That's a good question. Seems like they punted for now, but it'll come up. It'll come up a lot more in the future, unless there's something more radical on the horizon, which there is that synod in October, and nothing good has come from the synod. Nothing at all. That's not true. That's not true. I want to correct myself there. There has been some good things. People are waking up slowly, and it's not very many, but it's in time. They'll see. Okay, Lutherans in the Diocese of Osnabrück, Germany, are officially invited to pick up communion at Novus Ordo Eucharists. Yep, that's been on the game plan for a while. Communion for Protestants is a great opening and an important step that will allow the churches to grow closer together, claimed Osnabrück Cathedral Canon Reinhard Molitor in an interview with the diocesan newspaper. He said that the Diocese of Osnabrück was the first German diocese to issue an official invitation to Eucharistic hospitality in June 2023. So last year. Rottenburg, Stuttgart is also working on such an agreement. Well, that's Rottenburg. Other dioceses are hesitating. I think it could apply to the whole church. So his goal for the whole church is to give communion to everyone. Oh, just Lutherans. Start out with just Lutherans, but basically everyone's inside the church. So who cares about baptism? Who cares about the sacraments? These people don't believe in the real presence in the Eucharist. It's very apparent. And so intercommunion in Germany, and again, of course, Germany is sort of the experimental, experimental region in Catholicism. Well, I mean, I wouldn't really call it Catholicism, but in the Francis Church, I guess I can kind of say the Francis Church. I don't know how closely he's colluding with them, but it's an experimental region where they are trying different things and trying many heretical things, and they've gotten away with everything so far and more, because they were doing the LMNOP blessings before it was authorized by the Vatican, and now it's authorized. And so what they were doing is they were doing is fully in line with the Francis Church. All right. And now intercommunion. And we'll see if it catches on around the world. You can't, I mean, these guys they're clearly heretics. Like, you have to avoid these people. All right, Slim Jim. The Irish Catholic Bishops' Conference has been addressed Wednesday by heterodox Jesuit priest Father James Martin in the Marian Shrine of Knock, where Our Lady appeared to villagers in 1879. The conference has not made any statement on the matter at the time of publication, nor responded to requests for comment from LifeSite. It is understood that at least one bishop privately expressed reservations about hosting Martin. A trusted source in Ireland told LifeSite that the meeting included discussions on how to implement the blessing of LMNOP couples and even the desire to implement LMNOP marriage. So the Irish bishops, so Martin is, Irish bishops are in communion with Francis Church, and Martin is one of their holy prophets. Now, I did see something. If this turns into anything, I'll let you know. Father James Martin's publication Outreach said that they have some news for tomorrow. I don't know what it means. They may just be releasing a book or something. I don't know. But if it turns into anything, I'll let you know. You know, you can find it here on EVTN News. Moving along to China, the Vatican announced on Wednesday the appointment of Father Peter Wu Yishun as the bishop of the Apostolic Prefecture of Shaowu, the third appointment of a bishop in China in just a week. Well, the third announcement, because the Chinese government already appointed them bishops in the past. According to the announcement, Wu was nominated as Bishop of Shaowu, which is situated in the southeastern coastal province of Fujian, on December 16th, 2023. So a few months ago, but the Vatican just announced it. Within the framework of the provisional agreement between the Holy See and the People's Republic of China. So the government appointed him bishop, and Francis approved it, apparently. So I believe in the past... anyway, the statement went on to note that Wu was elected as the bishop designate of the northern Fujian diocese on January 18th, 2022. So he was elected by the government 2 years ago. Okay. So I believe in the past there were arrangements with certain countries in the Vatican that the king, the monarch of certain countries would appoint bishops. And I believe even in some places the lay people would elect bishops. I don't know the whole history of that. So, but to have President Xi nominate bishops who are loyal to the patriotic church, which isn't the Catholic Church, and not the underground church, is a real disappointment. There are persecutions of Catholics in China, so yeah. But I talked about that last week, I think. Maybe we'll hear more bishops announcements of bishop appointments. Now, I heard stories from Ukraine when it was under the Soviet Union rule, the communists, and the government appointed priests at that time, and the good people just kind of ignored them. And when communism fell, they drove them out of the churches. They pushed them out on the streets. And hopefully we can do that with the Francis Church. But I don't know. Okay. During a January 16th meeting of the Christian Family Movement in Kinshasa, Cardinal Fridolin and this is, so I think it's Kinshasa. It's some country in Africa. Which country is it? Is it oh, I don't know. But anyway, Cardinal Fridolin and Bongo 64. It's Basungu. Freeland and Bongo Basungu 64. The local archbishop didn't only condemn Francis's LMNOP propaganda piece Sodoma Supplicans, but he also had something to say about the decadence of the West. He said, today the UN system is to push LMNOP ideology through UN agencies, especially UNICEF, World Health Organization, and others. In this way, they impose their culture on us through funding. And if you don't accept it, they cut the money. Because our because our culture in Africa is not like that. That is why when on December 18th we received the document Fiducia Supplicans from the Holy See signed by the prefect of the Dicastery of the Doctrine of Faith and countersigned by His Holiness Pope Francis, there was an uprising in Africa. If we bless the LMNOP, we also do it to say, your orientation does not conform to God's will, and we hope that the blessing can help you change, because we cannot be promoters of sexual deviation. That's pretty powerful stuff, really, from this guy who's really kind of a rising star in the Francis Church. Of course, not rising enough, because if he promoted LMNOP, he would be put in a top position. He is on the Cardinals, or the C9 Council of Cardinals for Francis. So that's pretty significant. But if you wanted a promotion into the Vatican in a high position, and basically all of these Francis cardinals, the most Francis-y cardinals, I guess you can say, like Supich, Tobin, Kissy, they all are appointed to multiple dicasteries. I mean, Francis just can't. He's not very original. He has to recycle the same people over and over again, because there's just not a lot of heretics that are looking to rise up the ranks, and the ones that are looking have, for the most part. At least from what I can see. I mean, it seems as though the Francis Church is really, a lot of people are really uninspired by the Francis Church, and they're just kind of waiting for a change of pace. I think that Benedict really, um, I think that a lot of people really came to appreciate Benedict and respect him, and I think most people would have respected him more if he never quit. But I think that, he had a solid group of people that supported him, and even people that were just okay with him, they were fine with him as pope. And now they're seeing the disaster under Francis, and I didn't even go to the Latin Mass. I mean, Francis was the only pope where I've only ever been to the Latin Mass when Francis was pope, and so I'm hopeful that I'll be able to. I will attend the Latin Mass under a different pope very soon. Okay, so let's go to synodality. The Vatican announced on Saturday that the Synod on Synodality organizers are inviting 300 parish priests to come to Rome for a meeting of listening, prayer, and discernment that will help shape the next Synod Assembly discussions. The participating priests were selected by their local bishops' conference in the Latin Rite, as well as by the leadership of each Eastern Catholic Church. The number of priests selected from each region was commensurate with the number of members in the bishops' conference. The chosen priests will be announced by their local bishops' conference on March 15th, which I will have that information for you if it's significant. I don't know how many names I will recognize. I don't know. I don't have a gauge for how the USCCB will react. who they will choose, because will they choose Martin? Martin was chosen by Pope Francis. Or will they choose rotten raging heretics? Will it be like Father Mike Schmitz? I think he might be a top name. Some of the celebrity e-priests that are popular on YouTube or Twitter, maybe some of them might get chosen. And we'll see where their faith is at. I mean, this synod has nothing good. Um, Again, I don't want to say nothing, absolutely nothing, because I mean, people are waking up. It's waking up people to the reality that the Francis Church is completely compromised and a disaster, complete disaster. During the 5-day meeting, the priests will participate in roundtable discussions, liturgical celebrations, workshops on pastoral proposals, and dialogue with experts, according to the press release by the Synod organizers at the Fraterna Domus Retreat Center near Rome. So, what is a liturgical celebration? Like, what is it? Are they going to be celebrating with Anglicans? Dialogue with experts. Who is the expert? Is it Kissy? And what are they going to be dialoguing about? Are they going to be dialoguing about Kissy's books? Dialogue with experts. So they're probably modernists, most likely. It's the Synod is completely compromised. It's rotten. Now, what about the synods at the local level? Have you heard anything about any of the synods at the local level? Apparently, that was supposed to happen. They wanted to make it happen really, really quickly. And I think the USCCB was going to have something in June regarding the synod, which should prove to be interesting. But Strickland's not there, so actually, well, it's not coming up anytime soon. It'd be nice if we had some June weather. I'm really excited about getting outside in the nice weather. But I think the last USCCB meeting was incredibly boring and uneventful. And so the video clips that I was showing, that I posted on this channel of USCCB comments, they're few and far between anymore. So I'm just going to have to evaluate if I really want to continue covering the USCCB meetings or not. So it's a real consideration, especially coming in June. June is not the most convenient month for me to do that, of course, because of the weather. I'd rather be outside than watching a bunch of cardinals say modernist things. But if they're egregiously modernist, then I post them on my channel and people post really angry comments. I'm not trying to scandalize people, just trying to wake you up to the reality of what's going on in the USCCB and around the world, of course. But the USCCB for the United States followers that I have, which probably make up a majority of the people that watch this channel and pay attention to the stuff that I post. I think it's particularly relevant to us. And in terms of the church, the USCCB is not as far left as Germany and some of the other European countries, like Ireland, of course. Ireland is inviting Martin to speak whenever Bishop Strickland several years ago condemned Martin in a USCCB meeting in the public, when the public could watch it. And so the USCCB isn't as radical. Now, McElroy, I think McElroy's certainly, I mean, I can label him as a heretic. He supports the ordination of women, so that's heresy. Of course, he's a huge supporter of LMNOP, and he's not afraid to say things that are that contradict the Catholic faith. So some of these heretics in the USCCB, I don't know if they're going to push their agenda forward. I know that it seemed as though they tried to shut out Bishop Strickland, and they made that work for a while. I mean, he always got to say something, but now he doesn't. I mean, he could. I think he could show up as a former bishop. That would be very interesting, but I don't think he will. He has his weekly radio show, and he's speaking a little more boldly than he did before, but not really a significant, considerable change. So, but I mean, it'd be nice to see him go around and say Latin masses for sure. But I think we still got a ways to go with him for that. Okay, well, that's all I have for today. And I don't think there's any comments. That's too bad. I always like seeing your comments. But leave them if you ever have any comments. If you have any additional comments, feel free to leave them in the comments in the after the live stream. So thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we are the laity, and we will not be silent.